Welcome, everyone, to Marketing Momentum with Charles and Deborah. Hi, Charles.
Hi, Deb. Hi, everybody.
I'm just going to make Charles repeat what he just said. We were talking about, okay, we don't complain. We talk about opportunities moving forward, and it happened to be, and no offense, Google always said I'm very, very thankful for this platform, and since we're not paying for it, no complaints on that one. But Charles, I think you're talking about as far as sound and all the changes to Windows 7, which actually fits with our topic, which by the way, just our topic is kind of, we looked at 2018 and moving forward. Now it's like, what is in store? I mean, looking at chunks as far as decades, 2020. And what you just said, Charles, I mean, I'm looking back at even when we started Marketing Momentum, the changes that have happened, and they
Yep.
not I'm not talking about between us or our show, but I mean just some of the, it's like, what, 3 steps forward and 5 steps back in
Right.
technology, and the pay to play model and blah blah blah. But anyway, what you were saying was awesome. So back to you. You can
Yeah,
say.
no, I was saying that for years, even though there's been Windows 8 and Windows 10, I mean, I've held on to Windows 7 just because it was dependable and I sort of knew it. And so I just had to switch over. I'd say, I don't know, maybe at the beginning of this month in January. And so as a result of that, you can see that I've got these two USB headsets in the background. That's because I tried them, and I mean they were just a disaster. So um, I went back and I got my headset that have stereo plugs in it. I mean they're still dependable, and then I mean I got them plugged into an external external sound card that I bought in 2000, I don't know, 2003, and so all
I
that
miss going back.
yeah, no, and I mean, I was really shocked that it actually worked with Windows 10. It did not work with Windows 8, didn't work with Windows 7. It skipped to and it started working with Windows 10. Now, I don't want to change anything because it's going to start working, right? Yeah, so
Exactly. But I was gonna say this anyway, but you sound okay. You always do sound clear, but you sound really exceptionally clear today.
it has to be the sound card,
It,
external, and what it actually does, I have no idea. I just know how to how to stick it in there.
That's all you need to know, though. If something works, just go with it. And what was it? Okay, I know I'm the geek, supposedly, the degree and experience and all this, and I sound like a numbskull trying to describe this stuff. But I had some kind of external card. I can't show you the laptop because obviously that's the one that's filming us right now. But I got this little. It's called my little writing laptop. I love it because it fits in my purse. Okay, yes, that means I have a huge Betty Boop purse.
The
You're
purse.
like, okay, seriously, you live with
Know a little bit
women.
about yeah, that's I know a little bit about person. Ask
But
the person. That's right. Yes.
but I love I like the old laptop too, but the old laptop was like walking around with a desktop. I mean, it had everything and it was great, but I'm not 16 anymore. And somehow a lighter weight writing laptop, since you love
Yeah.
writing, made a lot of sense. So I did that. But this one, I can't add all the doodads. So the other one had it. Now my husband has it. I'm jealous. Okay, Michael, hopefully you're not watching this because every time I look at my old laptop, it's like, but it changed my rhythm on what I was doing because it had a sound card that I used for processing all the videos. And that was just enough to put my whole rhythm off on the video editing. I know it's silly and I'm OCD, I know. But it was like, but I missed that. And this thing now, Mike has had to like drill holes in things that
Oh yeah.
you don't want to see what he's done to make it work. And he
Well,
even
yeah.
said the other day, I don't think this is going to work in the next revision, but it's back in the era like you're saying, like 2003.
Yeah, I mean, I see everybody that has one outfit. So they've got, the earplugs and then the mic, and then the laptop that I just bought, I went to the guy, kind of one of the guys that kind of put them all together for you and and so I wasn't thinking when I bought it because it has one jack and my headset has two. And so, I played around with this thing. I tried this thing to try to get it to fit. That didn't work.
Ooh, that
And
looks
so I've
fun.
been fiddling with this thing for about a month now. And then I walked by this external sound card that's just been kind of held up there, just kind of because it's old. I said, let me try and plug this thing in. And that's what's work. And that's the only thing I can really do because now all with computers Windows 10, they've only got one jack.
And that's why my laptop is here. And, you know, we started to do something where I would like download I mean, not that everyone needs to know the process, although maybe some people are curious, but I download the YouTube, pop it over to Michael. He'd run it through. I mean, it was like this process. It was a template thing. So it didn't even require any brain work. It just required that little card that was attached to, but then that stopped working. And he said, you know, Deb, actually we're looking at a 0.01% improvement on sound with this card. And I'm like, don't tell me that, you know, this is my baby, you know, it was working. But I thought, yeah, you're right. If we're looking at
That's right.
0.01% improvement, why are we delaying the video processing for that? So you start to kind of evaluate all that. But this isn't anything new. I feel like this is a trend, not just hardware, but I was talking to my Twitter chat co-host today in our meeting, and we were talking about how Storify is going away. I'm like, Storify, you can't do that. There's no real competitor out there for free, and they're perfect for Twitter chat archives. I mean, I don't know that everybody does that, but I've been doing it since 2012. I mean, I search for the hashtag, pop it in, it's right there. That's all gone in May. Now, fortunately, I actually exported, and if anyone's watching this and using Storify, just a little tip, go in and export all your stories into HTML. I already did that, so I have them. But it's like, what's next? I mean, MySpace, I can't remember how many followers, but I was near the top on that one. And all of a sudden you log in, it's like, wait, there's no followers. Oh, wait, there's no content. Oh, there's no MySpace, you know?
Right. Yeah. It seems like now you're going to have to pay a little bit for everything, right? I mean, I was looking at, you know, I looked at this just this weekend. I looked at Evernote. You can buy a premium version of Evernote. You can take a free version, but you probably should buy a version if you want to have everything. Then there's Trello. You probably should buy a little one, and it's just a little bit for everything now. And I think that that's sort of how, you know, whatever it looks like the information economy is going to run on, it's going to be a little bit for everything. And so it looks like we're going to have to start kind of baking that into the cake. Now, for people who are just coming to this, right? If they're just starting out in their online business, right, or just starting out doing a little work online, trying to sell some information online, they're going to kind of get used to it, right? They're going to come and they're going to see, oh, well, Evernote, this is cool. Oh, it's $10.99 a month. I'm going to get that one, and I'm going to get this one, and then they'll be cool, I think, with, you know, $100 of fees and 10 applications that they use all the time.
I'd love to be that low. I like you.
Right. No, yeah. That's optimistic, right?
Yes.
But you know, people who have been kind of used to, I mean, theoretically, right? I mean, if you think about it, I mean, Hangouts probably should cost some money. GoToWebinar costs money. And all this stuff, it's really cool. We've just kind of gotten used to it being free. And so what's happening is, and I think you're pointing to this, is that, you know, they're starting to limit functionality. They're starting to increase the amount of data that they collect. So if you don't want to have data collected, a lot of your data collected, then you got to pay for that. And then there's just also, at this point, it's premium fee. It's premium use. So in other words, we'll let you use the really good stuff if you pay a little bit, right? And so all those things combined, I mean, for those of us who, for lack of a better word, we market information, right? I mean, that's what we do. And it kind of almost puts us in the same information. You know, it's interesting, kind of puts us in the same business almost as a newspaper, right? I mean, they're marketing information too, except their model isn't working probably because it's too big, right? It still runs on that big, we got to have this big staff, this big newsroom, this big brick and mortar business. And people who've been doing this for a little bit, right? Blogging, information marketing, all that stuff, we sort of know you don't have to have all that stuff, right? You really just have to have a laptop and a market. I mean, we were talking about, you know, where everything is going. I honestly think that at some point, right, everybody who's in this, whether it is a, you know, big outfit or a little person, I mean, they're going to have this sort of, whatever you call it, brand, 1,000 true fans. They got to have this sort of piece of the pie that's so unique that everybody's got to go to them to get whatever it is they've got.
Definitely. And, you know, when you're talking about new people coming into this business, I think if I had to give advice, and this is basically what you're saying, Charles, so this is nothing new coming from me. I'm thinking that as you're saying that, keep it simple. I was thinking about the pricing model. I totally get why people charge money for plugins, and you know what? I'm willing to pay if I'm getting something out of it. I don't have any problem with paying for it. But my particular model, I don't find very many people that do what I do in the sense of, except that I wish that actually translated into, that means I make a lot of money doing what I do, but actually I spend a lot of money. But because I have the 50 websites. So when I go into a pricing model, you know, like I was just looking at a plugin today and it's, I don't know, it's like $17. I don't like to have to pay annually, but I get it. And if they're going to do support and if they're going to do updates, you really should have an annual, you know, pay but $17 a year, not too bad. But then you start looking, it's like, all right, well, now you're going to pay 67 for 5 sites. It's like, guys, I don't have 5 sites. I have 50 sites. So no one has a 50 site model. They have an unlimited. Now we're talking $399 per year. And I confess I have a couple of plugins that I do actually pay the higher rate, but I can't do that with 30 plugins for everything, or I'm not making any money. So
yeah, I think we're still in this, you know, I guess in the infancy stage where, you know, the plugin, you know, the guy who created the plugin, he's just some dude, right? He's some dude that has his laptop, and we're still at that point where you could probably email him, right? And so now I was not always like this until, you know, my wife started doing, you know, extreme couponing, and so, you know, she'll ask for stuff, right? She just, and she was not like that.
That's
either.
A gift. That's okay.
Right. But she was not like that either, because neither one of us are really kind of that way. We're not really kind of gonna kind of be this salesperson, gonna be really pushy. But I think, you know, she did that, and then she kind of developed this just kind of ability to be a little more thick-skinned about asking for stuff. And so a little bit of that sort of rubbed off on me, right? And I can't remember what the last thing was that I did. You know, if it's, I don't really care if it's after a launch price. I don't even care about that anymore, because I know that at the end of the day, there's a man or a woman, they're sitting behind that laptop, and if I get an email to them, I'll just say, you know what, I was sleeping that day. And I know that was the launch price. Can you give it to me for 60? It's still at the launch price, or $10 more than the launch price. And we're still, I think, at that stage where you can kind of reason with people, and you know, information is still fungible enough. We'll say, yeah, okay, well, yeah, it's $367. It was 67. I'll give it to you for 77, you know?
And so, yeah, I'll take it. Sure. No problem. You know what? When you were starting to explain that about asking, I was thinking in terms of, I won't say the name just in case I don't want any negative connotation, but it's somebody that we both know, and I'll say her name starts with an A, so that you might be on the same page, but she's really gifted at asking for things. And anytime that she asks me for something, I'm right there, and she's a good friend. I mean, she's great. She even got me, well, okay, now I'm going to be giving away too much. She even got me a job at some point, but I love helping people. So when people ask for help, I have no problem with that. But it's like, I would look at her and go, how does she do that? Because now, Charles, I have actually Skyped you. I've asked a couple of things this year. It's like, hey, do you know anyone that knows it? But that's actually a huge milestone, even for me. I mean, 20 years ago, it's like, you didn't ask for help. It was a deodorant commercial. You never let them see you sweat.
Right. That's right, yeah.
So when you started explaining that, I thought, wow, this is a whole new thing. I got to interview your wife, and you know, this whole progress on the couponing and how'd you get but you're actually, what you described, I do that. I don't know if that comes in a different categories for ask, but because it's kind of like, what are you losing by sending an email? What's the worst case? They don't respond. Or I think I've only had one time where twice. And then Tiffany Lambert, I think I asked, and she even said, she goes, I'm only selling this quantity. And it was one of those things it was one of her PLR products. I got in there too late. I couldn't get it. And she's like, you know, I told you. And I respect that. She laid it out there. Out of 5 days, I got 4 out of the 5. I didn't get that one day. But you know what? I learned that next time Tiffany sends something out, listen to her, that she means business. And I think Melissa Ingold was the other one. She's Coach Glue, but she's also, I don't know why I can never remember her other Time Freedom business or something.
Yeah. I'm familiar with Melissa. Yeah.
And I think it was like a minute after it closed. And even on the thing, she says, you know, people are going to contact me a minute later. And I'm saying, nope, I told you, this is a countdown. That's it. It's done. But both of those women, when they say there's a sale, and it works, you know, I'm right there. But most people, like you said, Charles, I'll say, hey, and especially with the West Coast thing where they'll and
Right.
this is no offense to you East Coasters, but I see it
Yeah, we're definitely biased to our own time zone. Yes,
that,
exactly.
like the West Coast will realize that, oh, when I say this, I have to actually differentiate that this is the West Coast. But the East Coast, it's like there's no time zone. So I'm looking at going, I don't know what this is, and I'll just assume that it's 3 hours ahead of me. But yeah, I've looked at, I think last night I had one and it was actually Coach Glue, but it wasn't. Melissa, I love you. Just saying that, but it wasn't actually your separate brand. It was the Coach Glue one. But I'll try the thing like where I know that it's ended, and I'll put it in the cart like 10 minutes before, and I'm still kind of thinking, do I really want it, whatever,
Mhm.
and then but you get all excited. It's like it's ended, and now I can still get this.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this is really some of us are having to be sales now, right? I mean, we started out whether it was this or something else. Somebody else did sales. I mean, I started out in corporate, and then I went and worked at a boarding school. But whatever sales was, somebody else was doing it. And I really didn't have to do anything, right? I mean, you sell yourself to get the job, but in terms of going to ask for stuff, that was always somebody else's job. My job has always been to either count something or to put something together or to do something else. But now, everybody's got to do all that stuff, right? I mean, now, not only do you have to ask for the sale, you've got to ask for the stuff to make the sale, which is what we're talking about. And that's a different position because everybody's doing that now. It used to be that if somebody else did, but now anybody who's doing information marketing, they have to ask for the sale and they have to ask for the stuff to make the sale, and they've got to try to get that as for as little. I mean, basically they're talking to suppliers for lack of
Mm-hmm.
a better word.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Now, do you think that this is I don't know if this is maturing process, if I'm just becoming an old fuddy duddy, or what it is, but it's like the sob stories aren't working on me. Okay, granted, what we were just talking about here, if I'm doing a launch and someone contacts me 10 minutes, look, I don't even want to take the time to have to explain to them that it ended 10 minutes ago. You can have the deal. I mean, I'm just saying that you guys see me now. Don't hold me to that if I decide to change my philosophy in life, but I'm all for just let them have it. Even, another day later, whatever, let's just give them the launch price. But when it comes to, I used to be and I just had a contract negotiation this week, and I don't want to give too many details on this one, but it had to do with moving to another country, which sounds exciting if I'm 20 and not married, don't have kids or,
Exactly right. Yeah,
potential
exactly right. Yeah.
family members.
Other than that, it's perfect.
Yeah, and the other thing too, and this is what this is probably another show because this would open up into a whole nother category, but I'm wondering if this is an economic thing that goes beyond even the US, because I'm thinking, for example, sure, we're not paying rent. We own the house outright, whatever. But the utility cost, Mike and I could not, well, we wouldn't want to, but not shower for a whole month. I'm just kidding. Not use any water, any electricity, anything. And we would still be paying the same thing because like utility companies have that base. And we were looking at, I mean, other than maybe a little bit of air conditioning because it is hot in this part of the world, otherwise everything is exactly the base level. We just don't use enough. And yes, we do shower, by the way, but we're just not using enough consumption to really change the gauge. So if we moved into the country and someone's saying, well, that means that instead of paying you $10,000 for writing a book, okay, I'll just lay it out there. Now I can pay you 500. No, honey, that doesn't even pay for half my utilities on a
Right.
house that I'm not
Yeah.
paying for on
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the sob stories aren't working because of maturity or if it's just which I think is good. I think anyone starting in this business, you need to make sure that you understand what you're worth, and not because you're trying to be all puffed up, but because there are bills.
Right. Yeah. And the other thing is opportunity cost, right? What else could I be doing with that time? I could be making something else. And I think over time that is what happens. So even if let's say it's not so much that I'm worth 100,000, but it's just okay. You know what? I'm gonna if I give up 3 months to do this thing, what am I gonna give up making that I could have made otherwise? Might have been easier to make. And so I think all those things are going in on in our brains, and the longer that we're involved in this, the more that we really do know what that is. We really do know you come to know what an opportunity cost is based on all the other jobs you've done, all the other launches you've done, all the other products you've done. And you think, "Oh, you know what? Nah, I don't think I'm going to take that because I'll just hustle a little more to do this other thing. It'll be easier to do. And I'll probably make the same thing anyway." And I don't know how I would handle a negotiation if I had to handle a day. It's interesting, Laurel um, was asked to volunteer to, uh, to work at our church, and then they came back. Of course, they're going to come back and they're going to ask her, "Well, can you do it? Can you do it for us now?" And so here's the issue, right? So the issue is, well, if I do this, I can't do something else, and so it
That's a
can't
good
just
way to look at it as far as what are you giving up to? Yeah.
and some of it is dollars and cents, but I think a lot of those calculations are going on in your brain, and you say, or in a person's brain, and they say they don't even know why they're saying no. They just say, "No, I can't do it. I don't think I want to do this," because I think someplace in the back of the mind you're thinking, I know I can make this doing something else.
Well, and that's what, when this particular opportunity came, the first thought was, wow, I don't even know how to take that. But again, if I remember being 20, I remember, okay, I probably should not tell some stories, but I mean, when you're younger and you don't have a huge bank account, not that it's huge now, but I mean, there are different options, especially, and you know this, Charles, even, before marriage,
Oh
before
yeah,
kids, adventures. So that's the backpacking era. That's I'm not saying people should go backpack, but I mean, that's when you think about some of these things. And now it's like, um, the questions seem to be directed just to me. And I'm like, so I'm going to move to another country. I'll give you a hint, across the ocean, away from my husband. Like, I'm going to have a Skype relationship with him for the next year. Like, why? I've been married to this man for 20 years. Why do I
right.
want? I'm not trying to get away from him. And, then you start thinking, and I don't want to give away my age, but yeah, okay, empty nest. What if one of my kids, it doesn't take very long. What is it? They say 9 months for the first one. And then after that, as far as grandkids, how do I know that one of my kids doesn't, and this is not a hint, guys, if you're watching this, to go elope, and all of a sudden it's like I've got a little grandbaby. I don't want to be in another country and
Right.
not see my grandchild till they're 20. I mean, you think about these things and you think, does this person not realize that there are a lot of factors? And that's just talking about family factors. But yeah, the whole money making thing, the other aspect, and like you said, making money. I finally said, look, if you're gonna pay me $500,000, yeah, I probably would consider it, because now I'm going to fly home and see my kids.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I'll get the job done. I mean,
Yep.
ultimately, it really is. And I guess you're right in the first time. It is, it's a value thing, right? It's kind of interesting. I had someone, and I've created video courses. I've been doing video courses since
Beginning of time?
2000.
No, sorry.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
I
I
didn't.
didn't really. I mean, probably the beginning of internet time, right? Because um, I left I left the program at Duquesne. I learned how to use Camtasia, and I started creating video courses then at that point. And so I've been talking to a computer screen almost over 10 years.
That could
So
sound really weird. Okay, no.
right, I've been talking to a computer screen. So
And by the way, Charles is really good at it. I had to put that plug in there. I'm
no,
featuring some of your videos on Web Tools TV, and that's not it's funny that you mentioned that, because I was like, wow, this is really good. Why didn't I purchased the PLR? Why didn't I feature this before?
no, thank you. Yeah, yeah, and so when there was a period where someone needed me to do that as part of a product for them, and they approached me, and this was, I don't know, this was back in the really early days, and I do an entire course for them for, I don't know, 200, $300. And it was really kind of interesting, and then things changed. I did my own, and most recently somebody came back to me and they said, "Well, can you do one for me?" And so just as curious, just be curious as to, well, how much would you, do you want to pay? So, oh, well, we could start at 800, which is a difference between 200 and 800. And the point was not so much the money, it was just that, and I still turned that down. Right. And I turned down $800 because, not because I couldn't use it, and not because it probably wasn't worth it, not even because it wasn't probably higher than the going rate. It was really because I started thinking about, well, I'm going to have to take 2 weeks off of doing what I'm going to do for me. and I don't, you know, for me, I'm not gonna be, I'm not gonna, my subscriber list is not gonna grow. I'm not gonna do any of those things. And so even that $800, which would have been, I mean, could have gone toward tuition, could have gone toward anything, right?
Property taxes. No,
What's going through my brain is a not, it's not conscious. It was just, it didn't feel right, even though it was a lot was not enough.
maybe that, maybe that is just wisdom. Like, I love how you said opportunity cost, because I'm not picking on the younger generation. I've been there, definitely. I really appreciate how millennials think. I really do. And I've been there, and I can't fault any of the thinking on that one, because I was there at one time myself. But
Yeah.
I think opportunity cost, and I'd have to ask somebody younger than us if that phrase works, to say, oh, wait a minute. Okay, I can think about income, expenses, but the opportunity cost, and you pegged it, Charles, because that's exactly what's going through my mind as far as it just didn't feel right. It sounded great, like move to another country, the whole thing. But then I started thinking about things that were more concrete, less abstract, not just relationships with family, but also my doctorate. And maybe we're going on a snail's pace, but the point is the doctorate, and you've been there. There's a certain point where the curriculum expires. You have to go actually relearn it, not because you've unlearned it, but because it becomes expired curriculum, so to speak, whatever
Mhm.
regulations are out there. And I know that's not the purpose of this hangout, but now you're paying money to go relearn something that you've already learned. And I'm looking at this going, do you have any idea how much the doctorate is costing me? I mean, it obviously is fresh in my mind, but I'm thinking, how many like hundreds of thousands of dollars this doctorate costs? And you want me to do something for $500, move to another country, and I will be losing about $200,000 worth in education just by putting off what I should be doing today. So it's like, I can't, as you know, Charles, because you've been there. I mean, the master's, I said before, I could just
Mhm.
sneeze and we were done. The bachelor's was a little bit more work, but the doctorate, that puppy can take 15 hours per day easily.
Right. Yeah. And see, I come back to, the decision, I guess, we got to make about Laurel. I mean, um, it's not, at this point, it's not money at all. Right. So it's kind of like, okay. And for her, it's not even opportunity cost. It is, you know, is this block of time that I need to do this? I mean, clearly it's something that would be worthy, right, of her time. And she's good at it. We've just got to really consider whether or not, you know, it needs to take the place of what she's doing now. And then those other things that she would not be able to do, those things still need to be done, right? So it's not as if the things she was doing during that block of time were not valuable. So now those things still have to be done. They've either got to be done by the people who are still in the house, or they've still got to be done for her by her in her off time. So those are all those like sort of considerations, right? And I guess opportunity cost is everything, especially now because we don't really have tangible things that we can kind of put our hands on. Time is really almost tangible to us, who do stuff with information. Time is tangible, so we then have to sort of like really think hard about blocks of time and what it's going to cost.
And I think you have to factor it as in time, which can be somewhat abstract for some people, factor in sanity. And Laurel's very sane. I'm not implying anything
Right. Yeah.
on that one, but I've noticed that if I go 36 hours without sleep, I haven't done that to you, Charles, yet on one of these shows, but Mike has said, it's like, honey, I think you're, so he can't say I'm crazy, but he's like, I think you need some sleep. I don't think things are quite gelling. So there is a certain factor where health and sanity are affected by those kind of decisions. And I think when we're younger, it's like we think we're impervious. We can just handle anything, but that becomes an issue. And I was watching Frankie and Grace, or hilarious Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin, but there's something on there talking about relationship where it's like, do you want to be mad and alone, or do you want to be mad and together? It's like, look, you're going to be mad at me either way. Life is too short. And I'm not saying that there's any relationship issues being discussed here, but
Right. Yeah. I know
you
what you
look
get.
at the whole big scope to say, but wait a minute, there's relationships. There's you, your wife, your children. Does she, not my business what she decides to do, but I mean, you're giving up a portion of that as well, as far as that time factor.
Yeah, it's really kind of an interesting thing, right? And I don't want to get off onto a tangent, but it's kind of like I think I think it this comes back to I think what you were saying before is is the value other we wouldn't even consider this other I mean we wouldn't consider it for the money, right? And for the time that she'd have to spend, it would even be a question. The real thing is I think she's really considering it because of sort of what it would mean, right?
Hmm.
So it's a
Hmm.
meaning thing. So if you take that same concept and you transfer that into, let's say that, but not everybody has to do it because of meaning. Sometimes you need to do it for the money. And so if you do it strictly for the money, I guess the question is going to be, well, if I have to eat, I have to drink, I have to sleep, I have to go take out the garbage, and I need time to do all that stuff, and I can't work 24 hours a day. Does it matter if I take a particular job? I mean, the guy who was going to pay, like the $800, it's going to take me a long time to do that course, a long time.
Way more than in what I'm picturing, way more than the 800.
Right. I could probably factor in that this guy was high profile, and so should I be talking to him about, well, what is this going to mean? Are you gonna promote me? Are you gonna put me out there? And he was kind of like, well, no, I'm not really into all that stuff. I just kind of want you to I just kind of want you to do the course. I'm willing to pay.
At
I was
least he's
like, okay,
upfront about
right, yeah, yeah, and which is good. But back to your point was I had to ask, right? So I still had to ask him. I had to say, well, you know, what else okay, that's good. And I'm glad that you're willing to pay more than the market rate, but are there some other things that I get along with along with
some
this? Because
bonus, some.
right, yeah, because really if it's not, it's still not enough, right? It's still not enough at that rate for me to do it.
That reminds me, and I know otherwise, I think I can think of like 5 different topics we could spawn off just from this one. But some advice my dad gave me probably 25 years ago that I still think of, and it comes to mind. He was in the executive world. He was in different aspects. But when he retired, he loves working with his hands. He actually went back to carpentry, which is what his father did. I mean, it's you're used to seeing your dad go off in a suit all the time. Now all of a sudden he's got a tool belt and he's ready to. But he really enjoyed it. But some guy came to him. I think he wanted a garage door, and my dad says, I just don't, he's not 20. He says, I just don't feel like putting in a garage door. I really don't want to do it. So he quoted it instead of turning it down. And that's not a knock to how it's just simply an approach that he took. He said, all right, I'm going to quote it at $10,000. I was like, Dad, you told him it cost him $10,000 to put a garage. I mean, I think I could do it for that. And he goes, yeah, because I didn't want the gig. And you know what happened? Guy,
Guy was willing to pay, right?
and all
Didn't
of a
blink.
sudden he wanted to do it. He's like, well, yeah, okay, garage door,
Right,
$10,000. I'll do
right,
it.
right, right. And see, in our economy, there are it's all about the value, right? It's all about um the value you establish. And if you say, right, if you say I'm gonna charge $10,000, somebody's willing to pay it, right? I mean, y- y- um, your bank account doesn't, you know what I mean? You sort of think, well, okay, well, somebody's going to be looking, right? Somebody's going to know I got paid $10,000 to put this, and nobody cares, right? Nobody really cares except for the person putting up the garage and the person who's paying it. If they want to pay the $10,000, right, then it's cool.
That's exactly, if they're exactly. And that's what I started to actually apply that, where it's like, what is it where, and that's where I came up with this moving into the country. It's like, if you want to pay me 500,000, yeah, okay. So my husband will give up his job and we'll move and we'll fly the kids over and future grandkids to visit
Right.
and whatever, and buy a mansion and live happily ever after. But it's going to cost you 500,000 for me to give up what I have here. And I doubt that would ever come through. It'd be great if it did. Charles, I'll send you a commission.
That's
But
right. Yeah.
it's like, what
I'm coming to
price?
visit. You
Yeah,
talking about me?
exactly. What price do I require? And all of a sudden, it's not about the money, but on the flip side, all of a sudden, if someone's paying me 500,000, we're not talking about the same thing that we were talking about last week. Now it's like, it is about the money.
Right. Yeah. No. Exactly. But and you know what the fact of the matter is, here's what I have seen. Right. Um, there are people who not only that's I think what's really been interesting. I think since about being involved in internet marketing, information marketing since 2009 is I mean, it used to be that, I mean, you could kind of look at somebody, you could tell, or at least you thought you could tell whether or not they had a little money and they're working with something. You have no idea now. So somebody who kind of looks like, you know, you don't have how they look. You can't go in there look. To people who have $1 million and they can put that out. So you just really just don't know. There's somebody who can probably who are connected to us on Facebook, somebody who we're talking to can put out $100,000 tomorrow and not miss it.
Yep. Yep. And I've had a couple of those, and a couple of them I didn't. I hate this phrase, but in interest of time, didn't milk them. I'm glad ethically, but I mean, it's like, wow, I probably should have pitched something else to that person because they were capable of doing that. But you know what? You just got to seize the opportunity when it comes and be true to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Not selfish, but true to yourself and your family.
Yeah, it probably looks the same from outside, but it internally, you're just being true to yourself.
Yep. Well, thanks, Charles. I need to write down all these notes because there's a lot of things that I need to go rewind old 80s term or 70s term or wait, they didn't rewind records. Okay, totally don't. That's the tape era. I need to stop while I'm not ahead. That was me. My kids always quoted me on that one. Okay, mom's stopping while she's not ahead. So that said, thank you guys for tuning in to Marketing Momentum with Charles and Deborah. And we'll see you same time, same place next week.
Okay, bye-bye, Deb. Bye-bye, everybody.